We are here at SIPS at Clay's. They're going to be manufacturing Plot 7, which is the first one to go up on site at Church Fram. And we're here at their manufacturing facility, which is in Skipton. And we're going to see how it's all made. So let's go have a look. Obviously, once everything is signed off 100% from the design, they can then create a cutting package, which is basically all the plans broken out into the pieces that need to make up that house, which is kind of complicated in itself because it's not just like, well, I need a wall like this, but the wall is made up of components that have got different lengths, different widths, a raking cut, an angled cut, and other sort of structural elements peppered in there as well. And we're going to show you the process as it happens in their manufacturing facility.
I mean, that's operation number one, blank panel to there.
So, Ian, from these trucks, you load all your panels you're going to be using. That's how they look when they first come in.
The trick from that point of view is to have the right size panels for the right job. So we're just optimising the panels, so we're minimising the waste. We can process the waste, but we you know, it's easy obviously cutting out the right size panels.
So you load them in here,
bring them in
to
here,
this machine here,
onto the
and that just makes it easy for them to load.
just avoid lifting big panels. Yeah, when they get up to 7.5 metres, they're quite heavy.
This first machine is basically cutting it to length.
Crosscut saw, cutting to length. They're all 1220 panels at this point. We then use the rip saw here to rip the panel to the right, correct width.
So these are the cutting drawings you were telling me about that you produce?
Yeah. So from the 3D CAD model upstairs, it spits out these, you know, just simply panel drawings.
Right.
So every single panel then has its unique reference number, and it becomes a big Lego kit. But the key is obviously getting it right upstairs, bringing it down here, and then the lads are just cutting to all these dimensions that you see here. Depending on the complexity of the panel, there's obviously more and more dimensions, angles, etc.
So first they'll look at this and say, I need this panel here
That's
to
correct.
be this length.
That's it, yeah.
So they'll cut it to there, and then obviously this has got an
That's
angle
right.
cut.
So if it's a straightforward 1220 panel, it just comes straight through. As soon as anything narrower than 1220, you can see there's a 1220 panel. Here we have a 478 panel. So that will come off here. We'll cut it to width on this saw here, and then bring it off if we need to put the angle on.
Oh, okay.
Any quirky cuts. So it just comes off here and does a little quick bypass before it goes back to the rounding station.
You've got panel, you've got cut to length, you've got cut to width, and then you've got special cut.
Any special cut comes off here.
Ready, Mark?
Yeah. So careful, it splits like crazy out here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Lovely.
There are no splinters, even you can rub your hands and it's smooth. And we can put on from range of 0 to 50, 55 even up there, the chainsaw. Okay, John? Alright, do a cable. Your trace in on the back there. Yeah, that's 3996. You want to just check the full length?
Thanks for that, guys.
All right, cheers, buddy. Have a good one.
And then it all goes through to the routing station through here.
And this is where you're talking about this thing here, aren't you? You're talking about
The rebate. So the panels come into us with a 50mm rebate on each side. As soon as we cut the panel, you can just see there, we've got a solid foam core. So we need to rip out that 50mm piece of foam there, which is where we use the router here, which is the converted spindle moulder.
Are you typically taking that out on all four sides?
Yes, every
So-
single panel is always taken out on all four sides.
So there's basically a jointing piece between panels.
Absolutely.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, on every
right.
single panel.
What? So are the jointing pieces just something that comes standard, or do you have to make those?
We send the jointing pieces out as a in a separate pack.
Do you make them though?
We make them.
Right,
So they're
okay.
either one. There's two different joints. One is a structural joint, which is a solid piece of timber, which we'll get to in a minute over here. The other one is what we call a spline joint, which is a thin piece of panel that goes into the 50mm rebate on the side of the panel.
All right. Okay.
So where we get an angle cut, for example, on the ridge,
Yeah.
we would cut the bevel at whatever degree, and then we route out 50mm foam on the angle with these purpose-built angle grinders. So that 50mm that's been rebated out there to form a parallelogram shape, we use these angle cutters.
Oh wow. Is that a tool that's just applied to a standard?
It is.
Is that a 9-inch grinder?
This is 9-inch grinder. This is our bespoke. This is bespoke to us.
Really interesting. Oh wow.
So we have 5-degree increments. So we have everything from sort of 10, 15 degrees up to 50 degrees.
So you developed those.
We developed those. That's a casting.
Does anybody else use that now?
No, we haven't sold that on.
Stop
to anybody
filming.
yet. Yeah, it's a casting. So there's a bit of work in getting the casting right, but it's yeah.
How did that change things?
Well, to us, when I first saw that in Germany, it wasn't a casting; it was a welded bit of thing on an angle grinder, and it really didn't look very safe at all. Fortunately, I had an engineer that used to work for me, a very old school engineer, and that was just right up his street. So he designed those. And
How was it done before? Would you have to dig it
we've
out?
always done it like that. We've always
you
done it.
have
Yeah, I mean,
always
if we ever fail with those, it's a nightmare to get out because it's a wire brush. It's not easy to get a nice clean cut there. Kingspan only cut square panel. They never cut anything like that. They just
But
cut
that just
square.
gives you a better finish.
Oh yeah, so it's just a very neat, tidy way
Yeah.
of going on.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
when
I
you get
didn't see
hips and
that.
valleys, when they form inside, it just makes a very nice clean line. We're not having to hack anything because it's so accurate. So as long as the sole plate's square and level to start with, we're good to go. And those are finished roof panels ready to go.
All these here?
Certainly those ones there have all got an angle on, so they're all roof panels, yeah.
Oh, okay. Are these columns as well as jointing pieces, or are they?
You're going to edit this, aren't you?
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about that. I might include that bit though, because that's priceless.
So the structural timbers, they come into it. We're cutting the structural timber. Can we just go around here, actually? It would be good to get this shot round here. So all the structural timbers that go to site are pre-cut in a controlled environment in the factory. As you can see there, those are all the structural timbers. These are a 108 by 100. We do go to a 140 and a 240, and then we'd go to a glulam beam, and then we go to a steel. So there's a bit of a hierarchy as to
So
what we
anything
use.
above, what was the next size up from this?
From 140, a 140 by 108.
And anything above that is
240.
laminated, basically.
Well, there's a 240 by 108,
Oh, okay.
and then we go to a glulam beam.
Right, which is basically just laminated wood. Is that pressurized in heat? Or?
Yes.
That's essentially.
I can show you a sample now. Actually.
Yeah. Okay.
These beams look as though they're a solid piece of wood. However, they're actually laminated wood, several boards of lumber glued together to form one piece.
When they get the site drawings on elevation TG08, it'll show a 2523 post that they'll just go and get out the pile and go and get it.
And that will be what's in between.
That will go in between the panel. You'll never see it once it's built.
But is that because there's another something structural that's coming down at
Above
that point?
it, yes.
Right.
And wherever we get a door or a window, you'd always see one of those on each side.
Right. So that forms the jambs for the windows or the doors.
That's correct. Yeah.
The head is a.
The head would be a 240, or if it was a bigger head, it might be a glulam beam.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
And I noticed this here. So this is like a finger joint, right?
It's a finger joint. We're buying the timber in 13-metre lengths from Germany, so it's very straight. It's obviously not a 13-metre tree. So all the timber is finger joints, so you get a nice clean length. We have minimal wastage, as you can see.
And that's to keep it from twisting and moving and that
correct.
kind of stuff, isn't
yeah,
it?
so
Really?
it's very good quality timber.
Because actually, you can just tell how know, how dense the rings are on here.
Yeah,
it's slow growth.
Yeah.
You know, I was wondering about the timber, because you couldn't really, the stuff you can buy in, off the shelf at a hardware place is not going to be.
So there's
the
minimal
standard.
movement in it. Yeah. But it's obviously, as it comes in, we moisture test the timber to check it's within the under 20% moisture.
Okay. But you get it from Germany.
We get it from Germany.
So nobody makes that locally?
There's nothing in the UK, no.
Right. But again, they're used to building a lot more houses in timber.
Yeah, and they've got the forest in Germany, haven't they? Yeah, but it's just the panel was originally made in Germany, so I suppose that's where it's a funny sized timber for the UK.
Does Kingspan specify the timber that you need to be using, or
they specify the grade of timber.
Right.
So it's C24 timber.
C24.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, which
it's like the European kite mark, and so they don't produce any of that kind of stuff.
No, not at all. No.
But they just specify what needs to be.
Yeah. It's part of the BBA, but C24 timber is the standard.
Yeah. Of course, you're doing the floors as well, aren't you? Which we didn't really touch on.
That's right. Yeah. These are an I joist, I beam.
Yeah.
Various different brands out there. We tend to use a German one again, just by coincidence, but it's a brand called Styco.
So basically, you've got a laminated timber again here.
Laminated top and bottom flange there.
That is what?
It looks like hardboard, but it's not. It's a very compressed, very dense material.
But all of these components really are designed for minimal twist, maximum strength.
Absolutely engineered, so there's no movement whatsoever.
I'm assuming you can also, there's certain cutouts you can make into these.
Drill big holes through the centre of those, for your MVHR systems.
We're now glulams, and we're going to look at something.
We're going to look at down the. You've obviously those are the actual panels for the job we're talking about.
All right, cool.
Not these on the right, but all those in front of you there.
If you go to that back stack, you might be able to see the plot.
Normally it would have a name on, but that's why we just called it plot 7.
Plot 7 for a pain in the ass. Why is it 7?
Palette spelt wrong, which is not good, is it, mate? It looks a little bit of a mess in here, so if you can just try and keep the, don't put it too much.
Zoom in.
It's just because there's lots going on in here, really. These are the splines that we use, and we use the waste. We cut the 142 panel. We cut it into 100mm strips, and then we cut out the middle bit of foam and stick them back together again to make the jointing piece. So that just slots into the.
Oh right, so
the panel
so slightly narrower than.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying when you've got OSB,
yeah,
then the insulation, then OSB again.
Yeah. So that just slots into a panel.
What fixings do you use
for the nailing? And it's all. People are familiar with Pasload nail guns because we're using that many Pasload nail guns. Because we're using that many Pasload nails, we just use an air compressor. The 65mm. With a reasonable head on, but there's a lot of nails. There's a hell of a lot of nails goes into. If you imagine every single joint on both sides of the joint on two sides,
so you just
it's a full-time job. Yeah.
Screwing it would take a while.
You don't want a hangover. This is unusual because these are 140 stud walls, internal stud walls. Normally we're using those are yours as well. Actually, that's usually we just use a normal 89mm stud, but there's obviously some serious loading to use a thicker wall panel.
So those are possibly still load bearing though.
They're definitely load bearing.
Yeah, because you only do basically you're only doing the load bearing. We'll come in and we'll put all the other partitions in.
Yeah.
too.
So that's what we call a spline joint. Of course,
So the other piece goes on
Sorts
top
on
of
top
that,
of that.
and then you're fixing through here, and you're fixing
That's
through
correct.
there.
Yeah.
And that's just to keep the continuity of the insulation.
You've got
as much as
continuity of the
possible.
insulation going through there. The only time we change that is where we've got some structure where we use a solid piece of timber.
But the beauty there is, with it being timber, is that it's less
Exactly.
there's
Yeah,
less
it's
heat
minimal.
loss.
And the
Thermal bridging, I should say.
yeah
is
the U value calculation does take into account an element of timber. I think it's about 9%. That in any building you can have, but as you say, timber's a pretty good conductor anyway.
Right.
So it's yeah.
Are the glulams in here then?
Well,
Or there's not many?
Well,
Oh, I see the wraps.
yeah, the wrapped. There is. Yeah. So that's glulam being made up. These come from Denmark. They're made up in different lamellas, compressed, and
Glulam, what does that stand for?
glue laminated timber.
Hey Steve, how are you?
Hi, Bob. Great. Welcome.
Thank you. Isn't this amazing? Look at the size of these glue laminated beams you got up here. This is pretty typical of in terms of size, right?
Right. Well, yeah, we can make them 8 feet deep and 130 feet long,
Right.
but typically they go into residential application.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a smaller size.
And what are they used for?
For
These are the big beams.
supporting the roof and big openings.
The other thing I was going to mention, because we touched a little bit in the first film on some of the, people see this kind of stuff and they say, well, that's not very eco-friendly, in terms of materials and stuff.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about how the OSB, obviously, it's using like 85% of the timber as opposed to stick-built timber.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So because that
this-
is actually a sort of waste. It's almost
Yeah.
a waste product. It's like a it's not pulp, is it? But
It's
it's a,
not pulp,
yeah.
but yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah.
And this is apparently only 3% of it is a product. The rest of it is water. Is what I had read.
It's something like that. A lot of that is air.
Yeah, not water. Sorry, yeah, air.
Sorry.
Yeah, water. Yeah.
Change that to. Yeah, I'm sure there's no.
You agreed with me.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm looking around your site, and actually, you're talking about how you're reusing scraps of
Yeah.
things. You're reusing this,
Yeah.
that, and the other. It seems like that's something you're focusing on is minimizing waste.
We're trying to minimise the waste. We're never going to get away with it completely.
No.
Sadly, the sawdust, when we cut the panel, does have an element of the foam with the sawdust, so it's very hard to separate it.
Yeah.
So there is an element of landfill.
But there's not a big,
compared to
massive
no.
dumpster sitting around.
No,
with, compared
compared to traditional build, it should be significantly less, which is another.
Yeah. Well, particularly when a lot of this stuff is used to build passive homes. And
That's
a lot
right,
of people
yeah.
interested in passive homes
Yeah,
is
yeah.
because they want to be
Yeah.
energy efficient. They want to
Indeed.
be, kind to the environment and
Yeah.
everything else. So,
Yeah, so you might need one skip rather than 5 skips. I'd like to think using a SIPS product.
anything that doesn't have the insulation can be recycled anyway. Just
Correct.
timber.
Yeah.
So,
But the beauty about because we buy the glulam beams in from Denmark, they're all obviously apart from this sample here, they come to site already cut with the angles on and everything. You can just see one.
The corner element.
You just see that there.
Yeah.
is that angled?
So that'd be a purlin
Yeah.
for the roof. Yeah.
So it comes angled as well.
It comes angled. So it comes.
You told them the roof angles.
Yeah,
and
we
work
tell
all
them-
that out.
yeah,
and,
yeah.
Very impressive.
So there's no waste at all when it comes to that. There's a bit of wrapping. That's the lot.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really good.
And obviously we will try and get those to site. It's not always possible, but in your case, it's obviously.
And then here you've got some steel with a plate.
We do have to use steel, but we would always try and use a glulam beam before we use steel.
Yeah.
Your steel's due any time.
But basically, that came in all prepared with that plate on it.
With the steel's coming to us, so
we.
we bought the steel in and then we've added the timber to it.
Right.
Sometimes we're packing out. It's when we're putting joists on. We pack the flange of the steel so we can get the hanger to sit tight.
Right. Yeah.
But again, it's done in a factory environment. It's damn sight easier to do it here than it is.
Well, you can. Well, I mean, you can tell. You can
Yeah.
tell how neat it is
Yeah,
compared
that's
to doing
right.
it
Yeah.
on site.
Yeah.
Well, as you can see, they've got a fantastic operation. Ian Clay runs a really tight ship over there, and I got to say, I'm super impressed walking around, seeing how they manufacture this stuff. They've got their processes down, which I think is the huge benefit in manufacturing something off-site. Means you have so much control over what you're doing and the accuracy, transport, and everything else. And they do just an amazing job of it. You know, we're very lucky to have found them to partner with, and hopefully they're patient with us, and it's our first time, and they know that, you know, we're learning as we go, and it's something that they, you know like the back of their hand. So I'm just hoping that we can continue to improve and make it easier for them as well.
The more we can do in the factory,
Yeah.
the easier life is, full stop.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Good stuff. Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for showing us
Excellent.
around.
No
That's
problem
really
at all.
excellent.
Yeah. Pleasure.
Look forward to next time
Getting
we'll
to
be on site. We'll be
Yes.
on site, and it'll be going up.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, good. Yeah.
yeah, we'll get things ready.
Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Get it onto the start again. Yeah.